It is really like this sort of timeless limbo that you exist in. You just sort of reach quite a harmonious state with your work, with the mountain, with the sheep. You have a whole mountain as your playground. You have nobody looking over your back, telling you what to do. You're really left to your own devices. So sometimes you may go a whole week without seeing somebody. I mean, I think up here, because this is a much more remote than my last mountain, I think it's probably feasible to go several weeks without seeing anybody. And the only time you're really going to see people is when you come down from the mountain, because there's really nothing up here. Transhumance is the age-old practice of migrating herds of animals with the weather to always find the place where the grass is greenest. What that means is as it gets hotter, you take your animals to higher and higher altitudes. The season starts mid-June, and my role is to try and get them as fat and well-fed as I possibly can, all while avoiding the various pitfalls that can happen in such a wild, remote place. I moved around a lot when I was a kid. I lived in the UK, in Switzerland, in Panama, in Nicaragua. The one constant I had was my grandparents' house in the south of France, which I would go and spend my summers when I was a kid. So I guess it's kind of natural that I ended up back in the south of France. So I'd kind of walked the path that was set out in front of me. I'd finished university, worked a little bit in a lab, I'd worked a little bit in a corporate sort of suit and tie job. It was probably the easiest job I've ever had, and maybe overall the funnest job, but there was no passion in it. I just always would look out the window kind of dreamily and wanting to be out there. Overwhelmingly, it left me with a feeling that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to. I've never had that feeling when I've been working outside of art. I wish I was somewhere else doing something else. I know personally I'm a little bit of a sensitive person. And being able to come to a quieter place where there's less of that interference around you gives you more freedom to connect with yourself. Four months is too long to fix yourself an objective like I only am working till Friday, then I have some time off because you're working every day. The days like meld into one another. The date becomes meaningless. The week of the month becomes a little bit meaningless. So you really just sort of exist in this timeless continuation of the now, where every day you're just doing your job. Shepherding is this cross-species dance between the sheep, you, and the mountain. And it becomes really this whole where you can't get away from that connection. It's so intrinsic in what you're doing, you can't help but live it in such a strong sense.
Out! Kelly! Hey!
There's a lot of hard parts of it. There's the mental sort of stress of not being able to depend on anyone else, both in situations where you fear for your own safety and also the health of the herd. You've got all these pressures that are constantly there. Physically, you're tired, mentally, you're tired. And I guess that in that endurance on the last month is where it gets like quite hard. And I know a lot of shepherds who struggle with that. Because everything is harder, everything has to be a little bit more thought out and deliberate. And yeah, less room for failure, I guess. You do reach sometimes a breaking point. It's quite a common thing to have what they call in French a colère subite. It just all becomes a little bit too much in one moment and you kind of like have a burst of anger. When you pass through these moments where you feel you're about to snap and you kind of bring yourself back to neutral, you do feel like you've achieved something there. And those are like the best moments for me, is when like I knew maybe a year ago I would have snapped and that time I didn't. And the times I did, I feel like my whole day is ruined. I'm not the harmonious shepherd if I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, breaking my stick on a rock. It shows you parts of yourself that you could easily ignore. We're all complex beings and, you know, we have good parts of our personality and bad parts. And so sometimes it brings the bad parts to the forefront. And being able to address that directly and sort of get that sober look at yourself helps you also evolve as a person. The shift that happens when you're living this kind of life compared to a more urban, modern way of life is that down there in the cities and the plains, everything is a fight, is a rush to get stuff done in time. There's deadlines and limited windows of opportunity. And here, we don't have that relationship with time. In a way, our job is passing the time. So time is our friend. We're not fighting against it. I have a lot of respect for people who can exist in urban landscapes and still, you know, maintain their sense of tranquility. You know, that's where I would ideally would like to get to eventually, you know, is be able to keep the same serenity I have out here. So I read once the average age for a shepherd to start is about 30, and they've usually practiced a few other professions before. I know shepherds who were doctors, engineers, mathematicians. It is a thought out way of life and not just circumstantial for most people. For me, the biggest risk is living an unsatisfied life, and if you never try to go after the things which you know can bring you satisfactions, then you're destined to fail. I think there's a trap you can fall into. You try and map out a path for yourself with incomplete information. And so when you explore something you're passionate about, you don't know what new information you're going to acquire and what ways you're going to be able to tie it all in together with modern life, with work, with earning a living, with security. And if you try and find all those things before throwing yourself on a certain path, it's never going to work out. At some point, you have to throw caution to the wind and go for it fully and immerse yourself in what you want to do and trust in yourself that eventually you're going to find a way to tie it all together and make something of it. In its best moments, it's a harmony that you have between you, the herd, the dogs, the mountain.
Steady round.
And those moments you really feel sort of at the end of a day, and especially like hard days. So late in the season, sometimes you'll get up and your legs will be super achy and you put on your backpack and you have to hike up a hill first thing in the morning and you're like, fuck, I think today's the day that's gonna break me. I don't think I can do it today. And every step is a little bit of a challenge, but throughout the day, slowly you get reinvigorated by nature, by the work, by the sheep. And by the end of the day, like you don't feel the aches and pains in your leg anymore. You sort of have these incredible moments where the clouds will part in the early evening and that golden light will come beaming down through the clouds at you, and it feels like, you know, it's a reward that the universe has given just for you because you've been out all day from sunrise to sunset. And those moments are incredibly privileged.